Call this meeting of the North Brookfield Board of Selectmen to order. If you'll all join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we lost a hero last week. We recently recognized Ed Dakota as the oldest person in town. And he passed away last week at the ripe old age of 101. I believe his funeral services are tomorrow. He was, I believe, our last World War II veteran in town. Truly the greatest generation. That's what they say, right? So if you'll all join me in a moment of silence for Ed Dakota, please. Thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes and summary of the tri-board meeting with the Finance Committee and the School Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Executive session notes for June 5th.
We're not there yet. We're just doing this is the tri-board.
Sorry.
Meeting. Yep. Jumping the gun there, kid.
Yep, sorry.
All right. So discussion on the tri-board meeting. No? All in favor?
Right.
Aye. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the June 3rd Selectmen's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Right.
I'll abstain from that. I wasn't here. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve executive session minutes of Thursday, June 5th.
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion?
Yep.
Okay.
I've got this issue with some stuff in there.
Okay.
I'd like to
Revise.
revise and
All right.
bring back to approval at a later time.
Okay. All in favor?
Right.
No. With the motion was to approve the minutes. So now we just vote no.
No.
Thank you.
No.
You misunderstood there. All right, that's all right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the Selectmen's meeting minutes of June 10th.
So moved.
Second. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Right.
Aye. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 24th.
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion? No? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve payroll warrant for fiscal year 25, 27, for, shouldn't that be 26?
Nope, payroll, this is for fiscal year 25.
Oh, so it's number.
Number 27.
Number 27, okay. All right. For $329,022.99. General fund, fiscal year 25, 1109 for $277,228.11. School warrant, fiscal year 25, 1110 for $126,105.51. The wastewater treatment plant upgrades, fiscal year 26, number 1000 for $368,789.89. And general fund and scholarships, fiscal year 26, 1011 for $888,614.81.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So we have transfer requests. First one is for $100 from the tax collector, town clerk, or town collector clerk account to the tax collector's town collector postage machine account. All right, and that's for some late payments. So I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next one is for $550, and I'll entertain a motion to approve that from recycling monitor salaries to recycling electricity.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have one here for $1,350 from the Board of Health clerk salary to the Board of Health purchases services. And this is for balancing accounts. So was the last one, by the way.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This one here is from the Board of Health for $2,040 from the food inspector salary to purchases services, Title V, for balancing accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so now we have some fire and highway proposed change orders. All right. Would you gentlemen like to address those?
Sure. Okay, so the first one is the apparatus lighting for a total of $3,852.70. So it appeared that the original design did not have included the exit lighting and an exit sign. And the town electrician came in and requested that we do so. Took a little longer because Pete went out to try to get better pricing on the actual light. And I think he did reduce it by $1,000.
Excellent. All right, you wanna do them one at a time?
It's up
Do
to,
one-
it's
do-
up to you, there's
Do them all together?
4 tonight, so.
All right. You wanna just go through the list? If we have objections, we'll let you know.
So the second one is a electrician issue again. Changing the breakers. Chief, maybe you could explain that more than I.
The electrical inspector wanted redundancy for the plug pins for the trucks. Not only the GFI outlets up above, he wanted GFI breakers in the box as well too. So to keep him happy,
Mhm.
come comes to,
$408.80.
Okay.
And the third one is for piping having to do with the heating system, correct?
correct. So in the original scope, the vent pipes for the heating units were not gonna be replaced. From the original time that this was all done, they've rotted away, so they have to be replaced.
And that's an additional $17,330.83.
And the fourth one.
And the fourth one, gee,
My last one was not more electrical.
yes, it's a,
The fourth one was, again, the electrical inspector. There was some items that were not in, I guess, the original scope to be done, and he's insisted that they get upgraded to GFI plugs, some conduit that has never been evidently secured to walls, things like that. That came to $2,378.84.
All right.
I will make a motion
That,
to approve PCO 32 revision 1 for a total of $3,852.70. PCO 031 for $408.80. PCO 29 revision 4 for $17,330.83. And PCO 033 for $2,378.84 to be part of change order number
3.
9.
I think it'll be
Oh.
10.
do we know what the number is? Is that,
33 on the,
That's the PCO. I
I
believe
think it'll
it.
be 10. I think they just did 9 last week.
yeah, the 9 we've done.
This is,
10.
This
is
will be number
10.
10. This is proposed.
okay. Change order number 10.
Second.
All right, discussion.
Obviously, I know that.
Go ahead.
I just, it's, the electrical stuff is pretty, it is 10, okay. The electrical stuff is pretty straightforward, and to be honest with you, I don't even understand how the plan was to not to address some of this stuff. It was kind of some basic stuff. The breach piping is a bit disappointing, but that has gone back and forth, and the committee made great strides to try to do alternates. We were led to believe, they were led to believe that alternates would be would make better financial sense. However, after pursuing that for weeks, actually found that it was not worth it, and it was worth just going back to Plan A. So, as much as I don't like the $17,330.83, it seems to be the best number we're gonna get.
All right. Do you know how much is left in the contingency?
Do not know at this point. We're still working with Collier and determining those open items that
Okay.
we discussed at last week's meeting.
But as I've said, you're probably in like 120 range before this?
Yes.
All right. Ralph, anything?
No.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So, old business. We have the Council on Aging here, and so last week, we met with the director of the senior center, and the Friends of the Council on Aging. And there were some issues that came up regarding a planned program that they had for Wednesday afternoon, and it would have interfered with current senior programming. And there were some other questions that came up regarding liability and just general use. And we have the council with us today, or some of the council with us today. And
Can I add something to that,
the
too?
director, you can?
Youth protection.
Yep, we talked about Cory checks. So that being said, I do want to address some things briefly because people tend to take things on Facebook and run with them, even when they don't have any idea what they're talking about. They really need to watch a meeting. You know, show up to a meeting, watch a meeting. You know, because there were some strings on social media where one or two people had been at the meeting and everybody else wasn't at the meeting. You know, probably 20 people or so, all chiming in. The result was just ridiculous. So, and all that does is dramatize things and make things miserable for everybody. So if people could refrain from doing that, if they don't know anything about what's going on, it would be nice. All right, so who wants to start?
Well, I missed what was said last week, but apparently a lot was said. I will say, I'll just bring you up to speed. I sent an email today to Courtney, I don't know if you saw it, and then I sent you guys a copy, and I'm the liaison now with for the senior center, and so I met with Courtney and with Ms. Manning yesterday and Josie, and I've been trying to reach out. I've been reaching out to Carol Hawkins, who is the head of the Friends. Am I correct? Right. And she hasn't responded yet. That doesn't mean she won't. It just means she hasn't. So I'm trying to get a handle on all this. With their help, I've been able to ascertain what each group's responsibility is. And there's been some overlap. And so we talked about that. And we talked about that there's been lack of communication with the board here over the past whatever number of months. And so I'm going to be actively involved in knowing what's going on, and I can report back to the board, and I can be there in some type of capacity, at least to listen to what's going on, and I can ask questions as they come up. I've asked that they come once a month to Board of Selectmen meetings and just make announcements. This is what's coming up, this is what our events are, or activities, and that's it. And so what I want to do is just clarify and clean things up a little bit, and hopefully take I will say the word drama out of everything. The senior center should not be a headline item for the news of North Brookfield. There's a lot of other things going on, and if we get a good handle on this, then I can eventually take a little bit of a step back, but it's high time we get this under control. So that's what I'm trying to do by reaching out, and then we can just get to, first I'm getting to know everybody, what their roles are. We have, Courtney provided me this, Massachusetts Council on Aging from 2024. It's a whole handbook of how Council on Aging is supposed to work, and what the boards do, and what their different responsibilities are. And we're going to be, that's something that is for the whole state of Massachusetts. And so it's nothing we're going to make up. We're not going to be customizing things. We're just going to follow the way it works best, and try to keep lines of communication open, in a positive vein between the three groups that are involved with the senior center and with us, through me. Is there anything there that you disagree with that I said, or if there's anything that you understood differently, or you have questions about? This would be a great time to bring it up. I don't know where we stand on trunk or treat. I don't know where that stands yet. I want to sort that out. I guess there's some people who want to pick that up, but I'm not convinced in my heart that the senior center or the council on aging wants to give that up yet. I don't know, till I talk with them a little bit more.
Trick or treat is not hosted by them.
No, but there was
But
what
they
they do.
opened it for the bathroom,
Right.
right.
I understood
I just
that.
wanted to
Bathroom,
clarify
they
that.
also bake cookies and make hot chocolate for hundreds of people that pass through there. And it's a pretty good thing. I would hate to see that given up, that's for sure. And I think that there are some seniors who take pride in that. Not positive, but I think so. So maybe that can be rekindled. I'm not sure. We'll find out. And as far as the thing with the kids, I don't know where that stands, but that opened a whole lot of
Yeah, I'd like to back up a
questions.
little bit,
Okay.
because I do want to review what we did talk about last week. So I think that's important on how to move forward.
Mhm.
And there were really three things that were talked about. The first one was process.
Yep.
And that process was really on how these events are planned and coordinated and who's involved with those processes. And obviously, there was some concern with how this came to be. And the feeling as far as the board that we weren't involved with that process. And unfortunately, I'm 7 weeks into this.
You know, you gotta keep,
I'm gonna
That'll
use it.
chestnut.
I'm gonna use the honeymoon as long as I can. And I guess my issue with the past 7 weeks has really been my issue anytime making a managerial decision, which is being put in a situation where the clock has run out and you don't have a lot of time to put a lot of thought and research into the decision that you're making.
Yep.
And really that was really kind of the core of the concern as far as that process. Because that process would have helped, at least me, with the next two line items, right? Which the next line item was town liability. And, there was really two areas of liability. And the first was if the function was gonna happen during normal senior center hours, which was from 1 to 2, the town's liability, is significant. And, how do we manage that liability? And I, for one, I'm not, there was no problem with what anybody wanted to do. It was just getting our arms wrapped around, okay, what are we talking about? And have we done our job to ensure that the town's liability is dealt with? And fortunately, as far as, the 1 to 2 and then the 2 on, Courtney, you brought that form to us, and we looked at it, and I've dealt with this in kind of volunteer, especially through the scouts. And there were some things that I didn't see on the form that kind of, give me pause. And afterwards, Mary Beth was able to actually track down, because evidently, lo and behold, we've been here before. And she found the form that was developed that had a lot more what I was looking for. So I think we're in much better shape this week, as far as that's concerned. That form looks good. I think we'll be doing reviewing and trying to move forward with something like that. And the third thing,
to me, I take very seriously. And I will start with, I've been a member of Scout America, which was formerly Boy Scouts. And, everybody knows that the Boy Scouts' history with youth protection hasn't been the best. And that organization is going to great lengths to try to fix that and get ahead of the problem. And, as a member of Scout America, I am required now to do youth training every year, which is 3.5 hours of training. And that training helps to identify, how to keep kids safe, how to keep yourself from getting in trouble, and, communicating guidelines that the organization has adopted to ensure that things are right. My impression during the discussion last week was that there really wasn't much in the way being said to address that. And, the question came up as far as quarter checks, which, again, I'm new. I want to know. Where are we with this? And unfortunately, I think the discussions that we've had since then is, I'm a little disappointed where the town is with Cory checks. So, by and large, I'm happy last week happened. I wasn't happy with some of the results that came out, but I think, the last thing I want to do is have to look a parent in the face and say that, you know what, through my inaction, I have contributed to your child being harmed. And I will, no, it's not acceptable. I will ask questions and, I will demand answers. I just don't want to be involved.
Okay.
I don't want that.
So thank you for adding all that. You talk about 7 weeks. I've been involved 1 day. We're gonna get this under control, and you will be satisfied. All those questions and concerns that you have,
Yeah, and Ralph,
just
I'm
give
not-
us a
I get-
chance,
no,
we'll
no,
work it
I
out.
get
I have the
that,
same
and I-
concerns that you do, and as do other people. We just gotta coordinate it better, and you'll be happy.
I understand, but I do think it's worth spending a few minutes to review what happened last week. Because no decisions were made last week. Nobody was shut down. Nobody was criticized. It was really just looking for some direction and some answers to these concerns, which, I feel are very valid concerns. And Ralph, I definitely appreciate your efforts. But again, I do think that it was disappointing coming out of that meeting and seeing, I guess, some of the public's response to.
Did you announce that we were gonna have a new liaison and that things would be working better, or you guys thought that we were
Well,
gonna
that
solve it
happened-
all here?
Well, we're not solving it all here. We're just
I
talking about
understand
it. And no, we didn't, because that happened last week as well, so we're just talking about it.
Okay.
Cause, and the other thing too, if you look at the social media stuff, a lot of it dwells on the Halloween stuff. And that only came up as something that was a future event. It never came up in the discussion last week as far as something that needed to be managed or stomped on or anything. So that was all Facebook. Okay, none of that happened in that meeting last week with Halloween. So like Ralph said, he's the liaison now. He's gonna be going to all those things. We'll be working on that. And to Jamie's point, we just wanted to get everybody on the same page with what happened. We're not trying to beat anybody up. We're just trying to bring everybody together.
Part of our discussion yesterday involved Facebook, and I recommended that we avoid Facebook unless we have some type of announcement of an event or an activity put that out there, and that's it.
Mhm.
And everybody agreed that that was a good idea, so that's the way it's gonna go. Facebook is loaded with rumors and and discussions that, as you mentioned earlier, are not necessary and create more problems than they solve. So we are going to avoid that, and if there are any other announcements or activities or whatever, they're going to come to this meeting so other people will see it as well as on the Facebook page. And then we'll go from there.
Courtney, you look like you want to say something.
Oh, no, I was just gonna, so the only thing that I was gonna address was query checks. I do query checks at the senior center. I think, I'm not sure how anything else goes in town, but I have to do them for all volunteers. Both boards are query checked, and anybody who works in the kitchen. So as far as query checks, I'm working on getting, some of them haven't been updated yet, so I'm working on getting those updated, but I just did, as I get a batch, I'll put them through the system and I run those, so that we do have the query checks going. The building usage, that was the only thing that I was not sure about, because I've looked everywhere down there, there's so much paperwork in that office, it's ridiculous. I could not find anything in writing on a policy or anything like that in my possession. Mary Beth did send me that that's an awesome user agreement that we had.
Yeah.
When and where that, it changed, I have no clue. So I don't know, because the one that she sent me was from 2011, and that was not in the computer that I have. So I'm not sure where that, the stipulation with the the waiver with the liability insurance and everything, I don't know where that fell off, because I did the one that we were using is I even said when we were doing rentals, I'm like, this is it says nothing, there's really nothing here at all. Yeah, so I am a little bit disappointed in the Friends and the reaction that they had. I think it just got to a point where emotions and feelings got in the way, and I just want to move on from that and figure out going forward what the plan is in case there's ever programming like this that comes up again. What would be, just give me what needs to be done. And we'll do
I'm
it.
glad it happened,
Yeah.
because it will happen.
Yeah.
And it'll happen places other than the senior center. So I think it's great that we're talking about it. I think it's great that we're working through it. I think the form that Mary Beth found is a big step in the right direction. Yeah. So, positive all around. Mostly positive.
And the form that was found from 2011, you and the council can work with Ralph to update it to any policies that might have changed at the senior center. So that'll be good as well. So, do you have anything else on that? Ralph?
No, I think we'll be working closely so we can get things worked out. I don't want to look back, I want to look forward. The senior center is a important part of this town, and I think I want to get it on track. So people are proud of it.
Excellent. All right. Does the council or the director have anything on that? Anything they want to add? Or are you all good?
They're good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, new business. Eric, you're up.
Good evening. I'm here tonight along with two members of the Board of Sewer Commissioners, Dawn and Kevin. And we're here tonight to discuss the need to repair for secondary clarifiers at the wastewater treatment plant and the potential to apply for a loan to fund that repair. So basically, both secondary clarifiers at the treatment plant are in very poor condition and they need to be replaced. They've both been in service for about 31 years since the last upgrade in '94, and they both run 24/7, 365 days a year. There's really been no maintenance done to them as far as significant repairs. you know, I reached out to the manufacturer of the clarifiers, and the parts for that are basically obsolete, so they no longer make any parts for it. So there's really no way to repair them. I know it's an option that was asked at sewer commissioners meetings, but the answer to that is there's just really no way to repair them. Both the clarifiers were a bid alternate on the current upgrade project, but there was never enough money from the get-go to repair them. So as I go on, if you guys have any questions, just, yeah.
Can you explain for all of us what the clarifiers do?
Sure. So the secondary clarifiers are essentially it's a large pool, for the most part, a deep pool. These are about 15 feet deep. And they basically reduce the velocity of the water through the treatment plant and allows the bacteria that do the treatment to settle to the bottom, and the clear liquid flows over the top to the next downstream process. So it's really a clarification process. It's an essential piece to the treatment plant. Without those clarifiers, you do not have treatment. There's really no way of skirting around not having a proper working clarifier. You can get by on one, but when flows increase the plant, which they do through infiltration and inflow with heavy rainfall, which we see about 5-6 months out of the year, you'll start to have violations on the town's permit. So, you know, it's really an essential piece. Like I said, there's just no way of avoiding this repair.
Are they working at all now?
They are, yep. And I provided you guys with pictures, I believe. One of the clarifiers has a really bad oil leak. So the speed reducer, which is the square piece on that second page there, that leaks down into that circular piece, which is a planetary gearbox. So we have to fill that about once a week with about half a gallon of oil. It's a pretty minimal cost, truthfully, to keep that thing running and maintained as far as the leak is concerned. But it's just a matter of when does the clarifier just fail altogether.
Okay.
Like I said, 31 years they've been in service. It's really the only piece of equipment at the plant that is not getting touched in this upgrade.
How close are we to failing, do you know?
So if I had to be honest, Ralph, I'd say it's really hard to predict. They could go another 5-6 years without any issue. They could fail. It's unlikely they'll fail both at the same time. But like I said, we really need to, just because this town has a lot of I&I, and there's just no way to avoid it unless you want to spend $70 million replacing all the piping in the street. So we use 2 clarifiers to kind of address that high flow that the plant sees. So like I said, it's really hard to predict. If I had to be honest with you, they may last another decade. But they're in pretty rough shape, as you can see.
Yeah.
I wish I had some pictures of the tank drained, and you could see all the mechanisms, the big scraper arm at the bottom. That's pretty much rusted out. It's falling apart as we speak.
And if it fails, what happens?
If it fails, you basically have to go. So that's the other part of this. Like, if it fails, it's not an easy fix. You're going to have to go out to state bid, right, to have somebody repair it. And then so that's a lengthy process. And then the lead time for equipment is probably 8 months. And then installation, you're probably talking over a year if you hit all the right marks. You're probably talking a year of non-compliance, which would just lead to a lot of, it would just be a bad thing. So, you spend all this money to upgrade the plant, right? And then you start to have all these non-compliance issues. It just doesn't, it's a bad look. It just doesn't jive. I understand financially what this means to the town. We can go over on the second page here. I kind of made a quick breakout on an Excel spreadsheet of what the anticipated cost of the users would be. But it's worth noting, I know we have two members here that are new to the board, but a couple months ago, the sewer department applied for a grant through the state senator's office. It's called an earmark. I'm not sure if it's
Yeah, I
familiar.
remember this.
Yeah, so, we basically applied for a grant for about 2.5, which we think is gonna be well over what the cost to repair, engineering services, the full package. So, good news on that. We recently got word that that was approved by the Senate's office, along with a list of other projects that people applied for. So now that goes to the second phase of approval, which would be the US Senate's office. The engineers are the ones that are kind of leading all this. They're doing all the background work. They're very hopeful, seeing as how it made it through the first phase, that it'll make it through the second one, and ultimately we'll get the funding and we won't have to pay for anything. But they recommended we apply for what they call an SRF loan. It's a state revolving fund loan, and it's essentially, it's a loan that's basically given out for investments in water and sanitation infrastructure only. They're usually, they're given through the state. They're typically offered at around 2%. So that's just a backup plan. So what I'm here tonight to do is to seek approval or opinions on applying for that loan. And the application is nothing more than just a request for, hey, do we qualify for this? It doesn't guarantee that you have to take the money if it's approved. It's just like I said, yeah, and on here I have it written down, or I wrote down that some of the facts around the loan. So it's due, the application is due July 25th. It kind of just, this kind of just was sprung on me last minute. So, we don't have much time left. It's a very extensive application. You have to, I think it's a 40-page application. You have to submit what they call supporting documents, which I'm assuming is pictures and a breakdown as to why this, project is necessary. So the deadline for that's coming up pretty quick, and then it goes through another approval process, I guess, if you would. And you don't really hear back until this time next year as to whether or not you've been approved for the funds.
Oh,
Yeah, so,
okay.
again, like I said, this is just an application. It's not a, you apply, you get it, you have to take the money. It's just a, I don't know that it would be a good thing if we got approved for it and we said no thank you. I don't know how that works, but it may hurt you if you ever want to go back a second time. But it's just, it's just me kind of being proactive.
So the grant process, did they give you an idea of, I know that passed the Massachusetts Senate.
Yep.
Did they give you an idea of how long that next step?
They said the fall, early fall.
Okay.
To hear whether or not it's been approved. The engineer's exact wording was, while this is a great step in the right direction, it's not a guarantee that we'll get the funds.
Right, and then July 25th is the
There's a
deadline
deadline
on
for
this.
the SRF.
So if you wait to that point, it's already too late.
Yeah, yeah. And I meant to talk to the engineer. I was so busy today at the plant, there's so much going on, I didn't get a chance to, but I just want to run it by her that if we do apply for this SRF, it doesn't interfere with the grant. Like, I don't want them to say, oh, well, hey, they're going to apply for this loan, they don't need this grant.
That's important, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any correlation between the US Senate and the DEP. This SRF is all funded through DEP. It's unlikely that they talk much, but I just want to be certain that that's not going to happen. The engineer should have that answer.
Okay.
And then if you guys want, like I said, we can take a quick look, if you'd like, at the back here. So typically, like I said, 2% loans. Typically they're 20 years, but I did read online sometimes in certain instances they'll give you a 30-year loan. So if the project came back at around 1.5, we're looking at an annual cost of the sewer department of $91,000. If you break that down by the number of users, you're looking at an annual cost of about $100 a year per user. And then what I also did on this was I kind of played around, and I said if we were to fund this debt, 50% of it with septic revenue, which is that's never a guarantee, but historically it's worked out well for us. But if we were to fund the debt with 50% revenue, now you're talking $49 annually per customer. And obviously as you go down, you can see that, you know, it's the same thing. If it's a 30-year loan at 1.5, it's only $66,000 annually, or $72. The only thing is, if you look at the interest over the course of the life of the loan, you know, obviously the interest is more.
But septic is on the rise, so it's not really a big worry, because we are taking in a lot of septic.
Okay. Do you have more to add to that, or are you good?
No, I think that's pretty much
Do the commissioners have anything to
the
add?
gist of it.
Eric's done his due diligence on this, and this is definitely a backup plan in case we don't get the full funding.
Right.
Because we need to do something, because that plant won't run with the clarifiers if they stop.
Jamie, Ralph, anything?
Plan seems solid, you seem to have it under control. Sounds like we're doing everything we can do.
It sounds like we don't have a whole lot of choice.
No, this whole project was not a whole lot of choice
Yeah.
from the get-go.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the application process for the SRF loan.
Second.
Any more discussion?
When we get the grant.
Yeah, that's
Likewise.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, next thing we have is to appoint Suzanne Phipps to the Council on Aging as an alternate. Is Suzanne here? Okay. We kind of like to have people here when we appoint them.
It was kind of a last minute, I wasn't sure it was gonna go on the agenda for this week.
Okay,
I thought it was gonna be on the next on camera, so it's kind of.
that's fine. If she wants to come in then, that's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Same for the next Passover, because she didn't.
Same one? Same thing? All right, so the other one is Heather Cruto for the Cultural Council. And we're gonna try to get them both in here in 2 weeks to be appointed. All right.
Is that creating issues for the Council on Aging? Is that, no.
All right. So, that's everything on the regular, what we have for the regular agenda. Before we get into the public comment period, we have a lot of trees that get cut down around town by National Grid or the town or, you know, somebody doing utility work. And what happens is the highway department has to clean that up. The people come in and cut down the trees, they'll chip the brush, but they'll leave all the wood on the side of the road for the highway department to clean up. And typically, and National Grid does it too, typically what we do is the highway department brings it down and dumps it at the town pit. If you go down to the town pit, which you need a key to get in the gate, it's all the way over on Kittredge Road, and it's a long, fairly decent drive into the woods. All right? And if you go in there, there's a big, massive pile of rotten wood. Okay? So what I would like to look at is the idea of putting on the town website a spot where people can basically sign up to have the wood dumped in their yard rather than wasting it. Okay? And that it'll achieve a few things. One, it'll be a lot quicker to have the highway department dump the wood off at someone's house near the road instead of going all the way to Kittredge Road and dumping it in the pit. All right? And two, it'll make use of the wood versus it going and rotting away somewhere. Some of the things that came up with that were liability, like we've been talking about liability. So there would have to be, with this, the sign-up sheet on the town website, you'd have to fill out a waiver form, and you'd have to be present when it gets dropped off. And they wouldn't be going more than a truck length into your property, because we don't want them backing around behind houses and behind barns and up hills and through the mud and all that stuff. And you gotta be there and you gotta sign a waiver. That way you can't come back to us and say that we ran over your tulip bed and now we want $60 million. So, that being said, discussion.
Are people allowed to pick up their own wood?
Well, the first thing that happens is the homeowners where the trees are dropped are asked if they want the wood. If they don't want the wood, then the highway department has to get rid of it, because you can't leave it on the side of the road. So that's where that goes.
So if a neighbor wants to pick it up, are
Yep.
they allowed to?
Yeah,
Okay, that's all I was asking.
yep, yep.
So that won't change?
Nope.
This is just for wood that's, nobody's claiming, right?
Yes, and a lot of it doesn't get claimed.
Oh.
So, Jamie?
The optics of fairness.
First come, first serve.
Okay. So there's a wait list?
Well, you get a load and then get your name crossed off. Work in progress, that's why it's for discussion. Don't pick on me.
I'm not thinking of it. I don't have a problem with the idea of it. It's sometimes the road to hell is.
Well, that's why we're talking liability, right? And I just hate to see it all go to waste. There's a massive pile down there that's wasting away.
I've seen it. I don't have a problem.
All right, so from here,
Who's managing it?
well, it would be on the website,
Whose website?
the town website. And then the highway department would have to, when they know they're picking up trees, they'd have to look at the list. We just need a waiver form created.
Should the board have any kind of involvement in it?
Well, once the waiver form's created, we don't need to. But there would have to be an accurate record kept of all the various transactions. You know, there certain logbooks and whatnot.
So we're not gonna get into Frank got a cord of beautiful red oak and.
It's first come,
Joe
first served.
got-
What's getting cut down?
Okay.
You can refuse it.
You can refuse it. You can put down, you'll get a phone call, so this is what we got, perhaps. You know,
I'm willing to give it a try.
all right, we'll come back to that. I'll do some more research on what we talked about tonight, and we'll go from there. All right, you guys got anything else before we
I
go to
do.
public commentary?
No. They
Did I forget
let
anything?
them speak, they've been waiting for a while, I had a couple of questions, but.
Well, you know what's funny? I just want to make a comment, okay? I talked to Brandon this morning at length, and last night at length, and he told me that I could take it out of his 2 minutes, and he's not here tonight.
That's a first.
So Brandon, you're not here. Anyway, public comment period. Karen, you had your hand up first.
I beat Kathy for one. Just a couple of things. I'm sorry, I don't know who the gentleman is that spoke about the The sewer system.
That's Eric Cardenas, he's the sewer
But
superintendent.
I usually leave here scratching my head like, what did they just say? But you were just so spot on with your information and doing extra homework and crossed your T's and dotted your I's. and
Appreciate that.
good.
That's why he's the superintendent.
There you go. Very, very good, very good.
Appreciate it.
That's important.
My other thing I wanted to ask is, if the person signed up for wood, would, let's say, some people probably burn, and you can't burn pine, would they know what kind of wood it was?
Well, I think that we might do a designation, hardwood versus softwood. Because if you get a couple big butts of pine tree, you know, someone that mills it, you know,
Yeah,
I mean, there's people sitting in here that mill it, you know.
yeah.
So if you know, you're not gonna get a lot of it, but, you know, rather than see it go to waste, and it is a shame to see what's down there. It really is a shame,
Yeah, I think that's
so.
great.
I think I'm trying to follow what you're saying. I am following what you're saying. And I'm thinking that if the person has to be home and the dump truck or whatever shows up with log length white pine, and they say, "Nah, I don't want that. That's not what I wanted."
That's what I'm wondering, would they get
Then
a call saying?
they'll have to
this
just
is
take it
what
away.
is,
Or go and call the next person or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
It's
little
not,
cumbersome.
those aren't insurmountable questions, so.
No.
No, that is it. One last thing.
Go ahead.
July 14th, the Collaborative is presenting a free senior event, free hot dogs. DJ Brian's gonna be there, and it's kind of group effort. The Congregational Church is gonna let us have it at their church. It's gonna be 11:30 to 1:30, and it's free hot dogs, free entertainment, potato, macaroni salad, some sides, and just an opportunity for seniors to get together and just enjoy themselves. So we threw some flyers around town, and it's been on Facebook, and so we put RSVP, but I don't want anybody to think if they forgot to RSVP that they can't come. You know, everybody's welcome, and if the board would like to attend, I'm not exactly sure how old you guys are, but you can pay for your own hot
What's the, what age qualifies you as a senior?
I think you gotta be, well,
You're not
what
yet.
is it, 60?
60 plus.
60 plus.
Yeah, I got a little bit, yeah,
Okay.
couple years.
But I think it'll be, you know, a nice time.
Kevin will be there for me.
And Long Branch is doing the free hot dogs. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Nice.
Who's carding people? No.
Age cards.
Yeah.
All right.
If you walk up straight, then
Well,
that's,
thank you for doing that.
it's a group effort. It'll be fun.
All right, nobody else?
There she goes.
And I don't totally understand the workings of, do we call it the sewer system? What's the real technical word for it? I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't have to pay for it, so I don't care if I don't understand it. But I understand the money part of it. And a couple questions. Does this have to go before a town meeting for this one, if we vote to borrow, won't we have to borrow money to do this? No matter
Possibly,
what?
possibly,
Possibly.
unless we get the grant.
Exactly, so will that go before a town meeting? I don't know, I just popped
Think it-
into my head.
I think it has to, doesn't it?
For
It would if it had
private
to go
enterprise,
before, yeah.
If it had to be
Yeah.
borrowing,
Yeah.
I believe we would have to go
Okay.
before
Yeah.
town meeting.
Part of the, real quick, Kathy, part of the process for SRF is once the application, if it's approved, then you have like 4 months for appropriation of the funds at town meeting, so yes, you do have.
Okay. And my second question is, when we went through everything that we did to get the loan, we had the town meeting for, was it 13 million? I can't remember, was it 13 million? Well,
Originally.
at that time, and I'm not making any accusations, but at that time, would that not have been recognized that there was this problem?
Well, before you talk about the 13 million, it did go up after that.
Pardon me?
It did go up from 13 million after that.
I know, but
Yeah, COVID shot it almost doubled.
Don't wanna know.
I understand. And you, I know, you weren't around, so you're new,
Yeah,
but
I was around, I was in the background, I was the assistant for about
Okay.
8 years, but
would that not, I'm just kidding, yeah, would that have not been recognized as a problem
That
then?
wasn't, so,
It wasn't part of the
we
original.
had a
upgrade.
study done from Kleinfelder. This is a pretty easy system. It was red, yellow, and green. Green, you're good to go. Yellow, you might have to replace that in a few. Red, do it now. I believe they were red.
Oh.
We as a board said, yep, we're gonna do everything in red. But the last superintendent hid it from us. Kleinfelder never sent the letter to you as a board, never sent the letter to us as a board. So this is where we sit.
Okay.
there were other areas in the plant that were prioritized.
Thank you, Kevin.
So this, really quick, Kathy, to answer your question, so the design for this repair work, the upgrade on the clarifiers has actually already been done. I shared a piece of it with the board tonight. So the design is already done. It was recognized and addressed as part of the design. And it was put on the upgrade as or on the bid specs where it goes out to bid as a bid alternate. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
So they thought it was gonna be able to get completed, but once they realized, how much we had in contingency, and as the board knows, these change orders add up pretty quickly. At that treatment plant, there's so many pipes buried underground. I mean, there's like a highway of pipes, so we ran into a lot of the piping they anticipated on keeping, they found was rotted in the ground. So there was a lot of change orders down there. They're pretty extensive projects,
Okay.
So to answer your question, yes, the anticipation was to fix it and repair it. It just didn't happen, unfortunately, due to a lack of funds.
Due to a lack of funds, because, okay.
There was over 50-something change orders on that original bid.
Because when you have a town meeting, but somebody's gonna ask that same question that I asked.
Oh, yeah.
And people have the right to ask the question. I have no problem answering them.
Thank you. Good job, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Tina, nothing?
Just looking at you. I'm looking at the map to make sure that storm went by.
She's gonna be under the table in a minute.
It's gone. We're good.
Anybody else? All right.
Nobody else does. I have two questions, real
Go ahead.
simple. Do we have anything scheduled with East Brookfield yet?
No,
Okay, because I think we said after.
after the 4th of
I
July,
emailed them, they never got back to me, so.
really. Okay, well, I'll
What's
try
that?
calling the chair over there and see if we get a response.
Okay.
So, just so everybody knows, East Brookfield wants to work with us on a bunch of different issues, but we have to set up a meeting with them on that. So, we'll be, we'll let people know as we find.
Can't give us a hint?
Huh?
Can't give us a hint?
Well, one of the things is they want to share the transfer station with us, which will be good. Okay, they want to work with us on the beach again. Yeah, so, yep, and then there were several other things that I can't remember at the time.
Beavers.
The beaver.
You are
Yep,
gonna
the
take
beavers.
them out to lunch, right?
What's that?
Take them out to lunch.
Give them a cocktail.
I'll take them for hot dogs at the Congregational
There you
Church.
go.
You gotta be 60.
I'll buy my own.
We'll let you down.
I think I could pass for that. All right,
I had one more.
what's your other question?
My other question is, are we still talking about the storage units?
We are, but we're not talking about them tonight,
Okay,
unless you got something.
I do not. I just didn't know where that stood.
Nope,
So,
nope.
thank you.
Jamie, anything?
Jason, it's just too bad you couldn't have put some of those trees aside And maybe on the 4th of July or the 3rd of July, we could have had a bonfire on the
Well,
town
they would
common with all
have,
that.
that is a good idea.
One fire a year.
Yeah, one fire a year.
What
But
I mean.
it would have been, it would have had to been stuff that was cut down last year. So-
Yeah, I
and-
know.
And covered and dried.
Massachusetts only allows.
And I got plenty of
us
slabs.
one.
Okay, West Brookfield's common, I went by, so I think I went by today and it's piled way, way, way high, so they're gonna, it would be fun to do that.
All right, so we've got, town offices will be closed Thursday, July 3rd, in observance of the 4th of July holiday. Real estate tax bills have been mailed out. The Board of Assessors is looking for an assessor to fill their vacancy. I think it's, how many days? They have to get somebody to us within how many days?
They should have within 30 days, but today's the 29th.
So today's the 29th day, and they haven't found anybody yet. So after tomorrow, we don't necessarily need their recommendation to appoint someone. So if anybody wants to be an assessor, you should check with the assessors first, but then, you know, fill out the volunteer form.
That is a paid position. It's a paid position?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
He's busy.
I got my hands full.
So we got a licensing hearing scheduled for Bike House Brewing, which is where Common Ground was, on July 8th at 6 p.m. here. And we are, do we have the contract stuff for tonight? All right. So we are going to exit, to go into executive session. And when we exit executive session, we will only exit that to adjourn for the evening. So I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of conducting negotiations.
Second.
All right, Jason Petrides, yes?
Jamie Gilman, yes.
Ralph? Ralph K, yes?
Oh, FKS.
All right.
So,
All right.
this just show
So-
up today?